Welcome.
Thanks, Chrissy, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming along and listening to an update on the Caspin story, or for those of you who are unfamiliar, an introduction to our company, which is proudly a grassroots exploration company. We are unashamedly into base and precious metals. Some of those are quite out of favour at the moment, including nickel. Chrissy, I was really disappointed that Michael Scanterbury didn't even talk about nickel this morning. That's how unpopular it is. But I guess from my perspective as an explorationist, what we recognise is that a good exploration discovery transcends markets. And so what does that mean? Well, for those that can remember, Sirius back in 2012 made the Nova discovery in what was pretty much a down market, and then eventually sold their company to IGO 4 years later, for $1.5 billion at what was the bottom of the nickel market. And so I think that's really important to recognise that even though these sort of times are difficult in that sort of base metal sector, copper is good, but nickel is challenging. There's still great opportunities for companies like us to create some shareholder value. And I guess to reduce the risk on that, we're in some strategic areas, out in some new frontier terrains, and we're out there looking for big discoveries, and we've got some interesting news that's sort of in the pipe that Chrissy alluded to. Corporate slide, not much has changed here really. I guess in the last 12 months we've got a slightly more streamlined board, but I guess the difference now is that the value proposition has changed. It's a great time to be investing in junior stocks that are out there having a crack and having a punt on new discoveries. So two projects, the Yarrawinda Brook project and the Mount Squires project, two very different terrains, but essentially the same sort of geological systems that we're exploring for here: magmatic sulphide, nickel, copper, PGE systems. We do dabble in a few other bits and pieces. We do have some gold prospectivity. Rare earths is something that we talked about a lot last year. We'll go into that in a bit more detail, and we even dabble in a little bit of lithium as well. Now, I thought today we'd start on our Mount Squires project, because this is really pretty much what we led with last year on the back of what was an interesting sort of rare earth discovery. We're out here primarily for new discoveries like the Nebo-Babel deposit just across the tenement boundary in BHP's ground. They obviously the big landholder out there building the Nebo-Babel mine, $1.7 billion worth of development. But really, there's something out there for everybody. Nickel, copper. There's also some gold prospectivity on our tenement. But and more recently, through our exploration efforts, we've recognised rare earth mineralisation as well. A first for the region, and a really interesting discovery that could add quite a lot of value. So the nickel sulphide is really nickel copper sulphide is really the main game here. Nebo-Babel mine, 10 kilometres from our tenement boundary. There's mineralisation even closer. The One Tree Hill prospect on the BHP side of the tenement, only 200 metres from our tenement boundary. Pretty handy sort of grades of mineralisation. They're 40 metres of a percent copper. Admittedly reasonably deep, but it's open on towards the near surface, and that might be projecting towards what we call our Redwood prospect, where we have seen some indications of copper. We did some drilling out here last year on the Sienna and Auburn prospects, RC drilling, following some of our earlier stage geochemical sampling. Recognised the right kind of rocks, magmatic sulphide mineralisation, albeit just traces, but it gives us confidence that we're in the right part of the world. There is some copper mineralisation at surface at Sienna. Quite unusual, because as you saw in the video, we're in a desert terrain. There's a lot of sand cover, and it obscures a lot of the basement rocks. So I guess what we've seen so far is positive, that we know that we're working in the right part of the world and in the right kind of systems. Now, I guess what we recognise though is that it's still quite a large area, a large area to explore, and probably the missing piece in terms of data sets is gravity, and so gravity surveying is useful for measuring the different densities of rocks. So the magmatic intrusives that we're looking for are naturally more dense than the surrounding felsic rocks that they've intruded into. And so they show up as kind of blips. Now, subtle blips, but blips nonetheless. And what the work that's been done out there in the past is okay, and it's sort of we've been able to sort of use it to an extent, and we can recognise, as you can see in the image, there's a slight sort of elevation through that Sienna Auburn area, and they're kind of equivalent to it's got the same sort of characteristics as what the Nebo-Babel intrusions have, and we've recognised that one of these sort of blips is what we now call Sharon Prospect, and it hasn't received any kind of attention whatsoever, no exploration, and that's partly because it's in an area where there's paleochannel coverage. That's where the surface cover is even thicker than the usual desert sands, and so it obscures the geochemical responses over that area. So you've got to use other tools, and we think that gravity is the key. And so we're quite grateful that the WA government has awarded us co-funding in their geophysics program. This is a new initiative, and I commend WA government, or the GSWA, for going down this path. Co-funding these sort of geophysical surveys in greenfields terrain, so that they'll spend half of they'll fund half of the cost of the program, so minimising the risk for shareholders, and it's a great initiative, and so that'll be part of our programs for this coming field season. Meanwhile, the other bit of news is that we've done a deal on the rare earth mineralisation that we discovered last year, which is almost 12 months ago to the day. The first rare earth discovery in this part of the world at a prospect that we call Duchess. Quite significant grades of mineralisation, over 20 metres there of rare earths, including what's most important is a high proportion of the heavy rare earths, so dysprosium and terbium. They're the keys really to the rare earth market. We've done a bit of prospecting through the project area and recognised that there's plenty of more potential for rare earth mineralisation across the project area. But I guess what we also recognise is that the rare earth space is quite a difficult area for the juniors to operate in. It's a challenging processing route, and it's challenging getting your product to market. Much more complex than gold and even nickel and copper. So we're really proud to be partnering with ASM, Australian Strategic Materials. Some of you may know that they are developing the Dubbo project here in New South Wales. Obviously, huge amount of skills and experience in this area, and we think that they're a great partner to work with to try and evaluate the economic potential of this discovery. And I think that's what sets this project apart from its peers. You know, there's a plethora of rare earth projects out there, but I think we've just taken that step above. It should provide investors with confidence that this is a rare earth project with some merit. So ASM are going to undertake some metallurgical test work on this using some of their IP and obviously years and years of understanding of this market, and we'll see how that evolves, and hopefully that we can, if successful, that will lead into a drill program later on in the field season. And so let's just touch quickly on our Yarrawinda Brook project. Well, I was going to say the second project, but no, it's not the second project. I love all my children equally. Just north of Perth, brought to fame, I guess, by the Chalice discovery at Gonaville. There's been a lot of commentary around that discovery in recent times. I think what we're out here now, or what the region really needs, is a high-grade discovery. So, high-grade massive sulphide. That's what's kind of missing it. Really, I guess, in the region to really get people excited again. Gonneville itself does have a high-grade core. The original discovery was actually massive sulphide. We think there's fantastic potential for further massive sulphide discoveries in this region. We know that it's got the scale, to host world-class discoveries. What we really need is the high grade. And so we've turned our attention back towards massive sulphide exploration, utilising EM techniques. And we're focused in on an area that we call Bresca. It's essentially, as you can see there, it's a long strike. It's the same package of rocks north of Gonneville, north of the Julmar project. Interesting sort of geometry there. At Bresca, it's got a sort of an intrusive look to it. So we've just recently undertaken a moving loop survey through here, and sure enough, we've identified two really interesting conductors. Now that's great, but what gives us even more confidence is that some of the historical exploration going back into the 70s and 80s, very shallow sort of drilling through this area, actually looking for nickel copper PGEs, does actually have some indications of mineralisation close to surface. And so I guess that from an exploration point of view, that's what we were looking for. We're looking to reduce the risk in our programs. And so when you get complementary independent data sets that all point towards what you're looking for, that gives you a lot more confidence in what you're doing. And so just for disclosure, you can see there we've got 3 plates. The third plate on the southern end is actually a false positive, or not so much a false positive, but it's a sulphide body. But because of where it sits in the geology, we know that it's not in the right host rocks, and therefore it's probably not likely to be the sort of thing that we're looking for. And again, shout out to the WA government for helping us out with co-funding our drilling campaign to test those 2 conductors later on in the year. So we're looking forward to that. Now, there are still other targets within the project area. A lot of this area hasn't actually had any exploration to date. It's been held up by farming, so land access issues and whatnot. So it has been challenging for previous explorers. Hard to believe that some of this area, so close to Perth, in a well understood kind of area, hasn't had any sort of modern exploration. We've got some other, we've already defined quite a lot of mineralisation at Serradella. There's some interesting EM plates along strike that we're also looking forward to testing in due course as well. And then beneath that is a pipeline of other earlier stage targets that are gradually being worked up towards drill testing, such as Balanza. And we're still trying to gain access to other parts of the project area to even conduct those first early stage geochemical testing. And like I said, we also dabble in other things. Lithium is kind of interesting. I'm not too concerned about the fact that the lithium market is off at the moment. I think it's typical of immature or immature markets that are still sort of working themselves out. Really interesting sort of pathfinder anomaly. So what we've been able to do is take our existing data and look at it through a slightly different lens. We analyse for 40-odd elements in our geochemical sampling. So we're looking for the pathfinders to lithium, because lithium itself is actually not really useful from a direct targeting point of view. You're looking for tin, tantalum, cesium, tungsten, those sort of elements. And sure enough, we are seeing some interesting sort of anomalies within our data set. We don't think we've necessarily explored the best of it. We've been doing the work more in the ultramafic rocks, and what we really want to be looking for is probably in the sedimentary felsic rocks nearby. But encouraging nonetheless. And the reason we're doing this is because I think, despite all the focus on lithium in the Pilbara, and out in the goldfields, the biggest lithium mine of them all is Greenbushes, the granddaddy really, in the southwest, and it's the only one, which to my thinking is just very unlikely. So I think there's still great potential in the southwest for further lithium discoveries, and our friends Tambora, who are here, they've got a booth just down a couple of doors from ours, have actually got SQM in a joint venture, and they're actually out there drilling for lithium right next door as we speak. So I think that's something else to look forward to. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's a pretty good snapshot of where Caspin is at this point in time. I think we're an interesting kind of story. I think we're a great value proposition, and look forward to giving you another update in 12 months' time. Thank you.